Good day, everyone. This is Dr. Ali Abbas Abdul Karim, and this is part two of writing and publishing a research article. Now we will continue with the results section. The main objective of this section is to describe your findings without discussing them. The description of results should start with the study subjects, demographic variables, then followed by primary, then secondary outcomes. This section should be the shortest section in the manuscript. Avoid repeating already presented data in tables, figures, or text. Address one topic in one paragraph. Start from the most important, then to the least important. Since this is your own work, it should be written in past tense. For a presentation of your results, tables are recommended for presenting data like baseline characteristics, demographic variables, treatments, and outcomes, while figures are mostly used when data is either too complicated to report or difficult to interpret. Relationships and trends mostly represented by graphical representation and figures. After you finish writing your results, now it's time to write your discussion. The main objective of this section is to explain the significance of your results. Begin this section with the most important observation, continue with the next significance, and so on. The main function of discussion is to express the connection between noticed facts. In general, discussion can be divided into the following sections. In the first paragraph, answer the question or hypothesis stated in the introduction, supported with evidence. Example: your hypothesis was professional fluoride application reduces the prevalence of dental caries. You can write it like this. Result of this study supported our hypothesis that professional application of fluoride protected the teeth from developing dental caries. Thus, the prevalence of this condition was decreased. In the next section, you need to compare your study with the previous studies and mention those studies which agree and those which do not agree with your results and why. Then you need to discuss the probable mechanism that explain the study results. It's very important to critically mention any shortcomings, flaws, and limitation of your study. Finally, you write the conclusion, provide the possible implication of the study and suggestion for further research perspectives. Generally, do not repeat what has already been stated in the introduction and results sections. The discussion should be written in the past and the present tenses since it is a mix between your results and the previous studies. Typically, it consists of about 1,000 words. Majority of references of your manuscript are in this section. The last section of your manuscript is the conclusions. It can be written with or without subheadings according to the journal guidelines. It reflects the main message of your study. It should be concise and focused, and avoid giving any references in this section. After the conclusion section, acknowledgement can be written, which is enable you to thank all those who have helped you in carrying out the research. However, it is advised to express your appreciation in a concise manner and to avoid any strong emotive language. Then you need to write down if there is any source of funding, whether governmental, institutional, or it was self-funded, or there was no source of funding at all. And then you need to write a conflict of interest statement. And then you write down your reference list. Majority of the biomedical journals recommend Vancouver style for referencing. However, other preferred Harvard style, or which is called name year style. Sometimes you need to supply another information for the reader, but you have limits in the journal according to the journal guidelines, so you can add these through the supplementary material if it is necessary. Now the question: who should be included as co-author in the article? According to the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, each author should have participated substantially in the work to take public responsibility for the content, and this includes conception or design of the study, analysis, interpretation of data, drafting the article, revising it critically, and approving the final content. However, participants who only collected the data do not fit to this authorship criteria. For writing, there are general rules that should be followed. First, the use of active voice is more preferable than passive voices. Use of phrases such as there is, there are should not be used excessively. Example: there is a high incidence of kidney failure cases among young adults at Baghdad that was reported by Zaid. If you write it in passive voice, it will be high incidence of kidney failure cases among young adults at Baghdad that was reported by Zaid. While the active voice, Zaid reported high incidence of kidney failure cases among young adults at Baghdad. So you can see that active voice is more acceptable than other forms of writing. Pay close attention to the spelling, grammar, and punctuation. Consult a statistician before the start of your study. Strictly follow the instruction for authors specific for each journal. For most of the journals, the average word count is 3,000 with a maximum of 30 references. Be consistent. Do not overuse synonyms. For example, level of interleukin 6 or concentration of interleukin 6. Both expressions are correct, but do not use both in the same manuscript because this will confuse the reader. Never claim that your work is the first. Be humble. Never be overconfident about your results. Most of the journals limit the authors with 5 tables and figures, and this problem can be solved by using a multi-panel figure, merging the tables that have the same concept or the same results, submit a supplementary material. While writing, try to avoid certain jargons. For example, a considerable amount of, you can use much instead. On account of, you can use because. A number of, several is enough. Referred to as, you can use called, and so forth. Now you have finished your work and drafted your manuscript and it's ready to submit. Now, the question is how to select a good journal for your work. First, you need to check the indexing information of the journal and look for a certain metrics. Among these metrics is the impact factor, which is calculating the number of times selected articles are cited within the last 2 years. The higher the impact factor, the more highly ranked the journal. The second metric is the cite score, which is essentially the average citation per document that a title receives over a 3-year period. And the cite score has additional feature, which is a cite score tracker, which gives you an impression about the progress or regression of the score of a certain journal. Now you have selected a potential journal for publishing your work. So you will start a submission process. First of all, read instruction to author carefully. Fill out all the necessary forms, such as copyright transfer, conflict of interest forms. Write a cover letter, and some journals give you the flexibility of suggesting reviewers. In summary, the process of research starts with completion of your research, drafting a manuscript, which will be submitted to a journal. This will be transferred to the editors, who will critically read your paper and decide whether to reject, and then we'll go back to the first step, or to transfer your work for revision. After that, you will receive comments from reviewers, and then you need to address each comment and resubmit your work to the journal. Then the reviewers will have another look and to decide whether you have satisfactorily addressed all the comments. And then they will either reject your work and then go back to the first step, or it will be accepted and published. Now, what are the major reasons for rejection? First of all, your idea is not novel or not genuine. Second, as I have mentioned in part 1 of this lecture, it could be related to your methodology in which you didn't use a proper controls or your hypothesis was not adequately tested. Or everything is good, but your work is not appropriate or not within the journal scope. Or it could be poorly written. When responding to the reviewers, you must take the following points in consideration. First of all, carefully prepare your responses so that each comment should be addressed and each change should be stated clearly. Be tactful and thank all the reviewers. Do not respond to the reviewers while upset. Never call the editors. Get help from other authors. This is the end of the part 2 of this lecture. Thank you for your listening.